From the far reaches of the Milky Way galaxy, it's Retro Nerd Girl with a film review for you, kind of. This is a little different. This is more of a chatty video with no structure at all that is actually looking at a new movie that has recently come out, Dune, that was released this year, 2021. You guys might know, and maybe you don't know, I am a very big fan of Dune. The book, the 1984 movie, I like the miniseries that came out in 2000. As someone who is a big fan, I've read all of the books by Frank Herbert, and they're all spectacular. It's a very unique sci-fi story that reads more like history. Love the story and the history of why Frank Herbert actually wrote the story. I did a review on the 1984 movie, and I went into detail about that particular subject, and it seems as if while traveling through Florence, Oregon, Frank learned of some architectural development that would control the flow of sand dunes, keeping them from roads and other locations occupied by humans. But that wasn't just it. He got really interested in ecology and a lot of cultures that exist in desert lands, and he was fascinated by the people of the Kalahari Desert in South Africa and how they value water. So the people of Dune, called the Fremen, they are really based on the Kalahari Desert dwellers, and also there's a very strong Arabic use of words and terms. So it feels very ancient, very old, and this is very set in our very far future. So there seems to be a combination of all the religions, and the people are have very much carried on humanity in a completely different way, but still there are tones or shadows of what is present today and what can be seen in antiquity. Okay, the story. So just so that way you know what the story is about, the son of the Duke, Paul Atreides, discovers that he has been bred to be the super being, the Kwisatz Haderach, and he must defeat the Baron Harkonnen and the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV by raising an army and controlling the production of the most important commodity of the known universe, the spice melange. And the spice is being produced on the planet Arrakis, which is a sand planet. It is a planet of desert. And on that planet, there are these giant worms that are attracted to activity on the surface of the sand. So if you're walking on the sand, they'll come and eat you up and then go away. So the spice in this movie, they don't really explain to you that the spice is something that everyone in this universe needs in order to survive. Nearly everybody is on just at least a little bit of spice. You need a little spice in your life. Well, in this universe, mostly everyone is on the spice. I won't say everybody, but a lot of people are dependent on the spice. And the thing is that with the spice, once you start taking it, you have to keep taking it or you die. Yes, and that is not in this movie. I'm really upset that that's not in this movie, but that doesn't mean I don't like the movie. It's just missing, and maybe they'll mention it in the second movie, the second half. They'll explain how important the spice is, because we don't really get much information about the spice just yet. There's this group of women called the Bene Gesserit, and they are really like ninjas. They have their own fighting style. It's amazing. And I've always wanted to see their fighting style. And hopefully there's going to be a Sisterhood of Dune or something where they actually go through the Sisterhood of the Bene Gesserit and actually talk about or have a storyline about the sisterhood, and maybe they'll go into like the weirding way, their fighting style, the voice, and all their other powers that they have, which is knowing when people are telling the truth. And all along, Paul's mom, Jessica, has been teaching Paul how to do this. And this is pretty awesome because that's what makes him special. But also, on the top of that, he's been getting mentat training, which they don't mention in the movie. Movie! And mentats are actually human computers. And the reason why there's human computers is because all thinking computers have been outlawed. Since ancient times, there was a robot war, and there's no computers. This is a sprawling story. A sprawling story. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. It has the flavor and the feel of history. There is a strong patriarchy feel to it. However, with the Bene Gesserit and a lot of other strong female characters throughout the books, it does something that is considered very modern back in the 1960s, the 1970s. So there's something of a kind of progressiveness about it, but it's also talking about the patriarchy and deals with the patriarchy. It doesn't mess with it either. So it's kind of a great middle ground. Kind of gives everybody kind of what they want. Okay, it gets so wild. So that's why I really love the story. Also, one of the main reasons why he made the story is because, well, I don't want to say it because it's gonna be a spoiler for a lot of people, and really maybe you might have come here just trying to get a brief look at, you know, how someone feels about Dune 2021. And I'll get right into it. I absolutely love what was done there. I really do. I love what was done with the film. The film has a very monotone look to it. The colors aren't bright. They aren't super bright. It's all about the look. The look of the film is very unique. Very mute, I would say. Lots and lots of grays, lots of browns, lots of gold, and not the flashy gold, but more like a tannish gold. The colors are very subtle, but there's also a mood created in the visual landscape of it all. It looks very beautiful. It looks like dark chocolate swirling around in a vat. You know, it looks very creamy and delicious. And it just takes my breath away when I look at this movie. Just from a visual standpoint, absolutely love the aesthetic. Now, one of the things that I loved about the 1984 movie was the aesthetic there too. I love the interesting and fabulous costumes and the huge sets, the beautiful sets with all the detail. And there seems to be a continuation here of like excellent costumes, wonderful special effects, wonderful visual landscapes, that kind of thing. So everything is very authentic. Also, say whatever you want to about the 1984 version of Dune. They did go into the desert to film that stuff. It was all, they spent a lot of money, and they ran out of money in the film, but they did have thousands of people on the desert. And that was actually shown here, and I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. One thing I did not like about the television miniseries that came out, which was a really good adaptation of Dune and the preceding books. And what I liked about it is that they showed a lot more detail. They showed a lot of story detail. But as far as the actual aesthetic of the presentation I wasn't a fan of because everything was so bright. And in my opinion, too bright for such a story. I just didn't like the color palette. And that's why I'm so glad to see that in the 2021 version, we have this very somber color palette. And I'm not sure if they'll continue this for the second movie. This has been split up into 2 movies, which is a wise choice. It was considered for the first movie in 1984 to actually be split into 2 movies. But at the time, the producer, Dino De Laurentiis, decided that he just wanted to have it in 1 movie. And also, the movie actually got cut down quite a bit. And this is one of the reasons why David Lynch actually disowned the movie for quite a while and asked that Alan Smithy be the name that was presented as the director. Again, back to the look. There's something very wonderfully real about the way everything looks. It looks very practical. Like I feel like I can just walk right into the movie and be inside of any of these rooms and these settings. It's inviting in that way. And there's so much visually that was nailed right. They got it right visually. As far as the story is concerned, I really enjoyed the story, the way it was told. The actors are probably the highlight of the story because they're really taking notes from the book, and they're also putting their own take on how these characters are reacting to the moment. And I loved all the nuances and things that are a lot different from the 1984 version, in which the acting, I would say, was very theatrical. And what I mean by that, it was very much like Shakespearean, like, I am walking into the room. There was something very much like a stage play about the way everyone is delivering their lines. And I love that. I love that. It really is something I enjoy about a lot of movies. I love when actors go big. In 1984, things were done differently. People spoke differently. But even for the time period, this was kind of a stuffy, again, Shakespearean-like performances, which I like. I tend to enjoy very, very much. Give that to me on a silver platter, please. However, here, and it is done, I would say, the most naturally. Everything feels very organic. The darting looks that people give to each other, the unspoken words that are said through their facial expressions, absolutely priceless. I love that. I love all of that. There were so many times where I actually cried during this movie. It just really took my breath away and touched me so personally. Like I said, I've read the books. I've seen the previous editions, the 1984 and the 2000 TV miniseries, and this is just a totally different vibe and feel. It feels very personal. It feels very real. The tent scene in particular was very, very emotional. I cried in that. I cried at the end when Paul goes through this whole process of having to kill a person for the first time and becoming his own man, if you will, because Jessica is pretty much telling everyone, look, we have to get him off world. We have to protect him and keep him safe. And he's like, no, my destiny is in the desert. He's actually taking control and taking the role. And in many ways, this feels like, and heard someone else say it, so I'm not original in thinking this, but there's a comparison to from Paul to Anakin, where he starts off as this good person with all of this really, really good intentions, honorable intentions. But he is foreseen, in this particular movie, he has foreseen that he will be a jihad and there will be a complete massacre of people in his name, in his father's name, with the Atreides flag. And that is so brutal, so horrifying. And yet he takes this on. It's like, yes, I'm all for it all of a sudden. It's like something he refused before, and he refused the destiny of knowing that he was going to be the Lisan al-Gaib, or what you would say the Muad'Dib, or the Kwisatz Haderach. He's all those things. And he is now embracing his destiny in a way, even though that destiny isn't the destiny he really wants, right? It's the destiny he feels he has to do in order to avenge his father, protect the name of his family, the Atreides, and the house Atreides, and restore their good name. And he knows that he has to do this through the people of Arrakis, the Fremen. It really brought tears to my eyes because the way it was done was just so well told. It just made me feel like this is the moment that Paul is making the decision to follow his destiny. He is making the decision to be the man that he feared that he could be. And in one way, people could say Paul is agreeing to be a bad guy, but he's actually doesn't have a choice in the matter, because if he decides that he's going to go somewhere and hide, they're just going to hunt him down. It's sadly, that's what's going to happen. For him to make this decision is instead of taking the defensive, he's taking the offensive. And in his mind, he's completing his father's dream. The part of the dream that his father never got to enjoy or get to do. It's so big. It just feels so big and so intense. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Give me more of this. I have to say it's incredible. Again, tears, literal tears. I did not cry when I read the books. I did not cry when I saw the 1984 movie. I did not cry for the miniseries. This movie made me cry twice. Okay? It made me cry twice. Actually, 3 times. I cried when Duke Leto dies, and I don't know, there just was something about it that kind of felt very sad to me, because at that moment he thought his wife and his son had died, and so there is a sense of helplessness in that moment that just made me cry just a little. And yeah, I love it. It's wonderful. I can't help but say, like, yes, 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 yes. Give me more of this. Incredible. Loved it. Want more of it. that kind of thing. Paul was played brilliantly. Loved Timothy's performance in this movie. I love the Gom Jabbar scene where he, looks at the Bene Gesserit. He kind of gets this strength from nowhere, and he just overcomes his pain. And I love that scene. I love how he's able to convey all these emotions, and he does it over and over and over again in so many different scenes. Great acting, amazing, wonderful casting all around. I love the way the voice is portrayed in this film. It's like a shouting and a whispering, and the music is like somebody turned up the treble somewhere. It's really good. I love the effects used while that's happening. Sometimes the camera shakes, and there's some visual cues that are being added to the moment to make it even more exciting, like sound effects too. Speaking of sound effects, the sound is, of course, incredible, but I think that really what helps to really get the mood of the film is the music. It is glorious, in my opinion. Hans Zimmer is giving his very, very best, and I felt it. I think some people may not enjoy that kind of thing, the brashness sometimes. Some people may not appreciate the woman singing in the background, you know, who's like, you know, oh, you know, there's a lot of people who don't like that sound. I do. I love it every single time, every movie, all the time, every day. Just, I don't know what it is. It sounds very primal, very, especially in this one, it just feels like the ancient sounds of Bene Gesserits, you know, guiding the story, watching from their visions, you know, whether it was in the past or the future. It just feels like a haunting memory almost. Lady Jessica is played by Rebecca Ferguson, and Rebecca Ferguson is very beautiful, and she has a very strong presentation. Jessica's a very interesting person. If she wanted to, in which they don't show you here, there's a couple of scenes that were not added to the story, in which you would understand why I say this. But maybe they might add it in the second one. But she has the capability, if she wanted to, she could have forced the Duke to marry her. She could have taken control over all of the Atreides and ruled the whole thing. Not just her, but if the Bene Gesserits wanted to take over, they could. They very well could. They would be met with some pushback, but they could if they wanted to. If they really wanted to. And, you know, that's the whole thing, is that they want to work underneath the scenes, underneath the radar. And I think everybody knows that they're scheming and plotting, because they're considered witches in the known universe. And so Jessica really represents that so well. Someone who is really strong, who is also trying to keep her place as the Duke's mistress and the mother of the future Duke. And there's a responsibility there. I mean, there's a couple of times where Paul actually yells at his mother, and she just like stands back like, okay, he's the Duke in her world, so she has to take that place, stand back. And it's a bit much for us in our generation, our world today, to like, oh my God, that's her son, she should have smacked him. But in this particular situation, it's a lot different when you're dealing with royalty and positions of power and society. Again, if she wanted to, she could take over, but she has the composure. She has to keep her composure. And part of it is part of the Bene Gesserit training, and another part of it is her love for her son. And he didn't ask for this life, and she understands that. But I felt that Rebecca was able to translate all of that information into her performance, and that is so powerful. So powerful, and I loved it, loved it, loved it. Some other standouts to me: Oscar Isaac was amazing. We always knew that. He's always great in everything. Stellan Skarsgård was amazing. He portrays the Baron in a way that is respectful to the strategist that he is. We didn't get so much of that in the 1984 movie. He was just bombastic and insane and over the top. But here, he's very much like a strategist. I love the fact that the Baron speaks of the Emperor as a dangerous man. And he's a dangerous person himself. For him to consider the Emperor a dangerous man, wow, I can't wait till we see the Emperor and we get a full flavor of who the Emperor is. So that was exciting. That was a bit of an interesting thing. And he delivers the line in the movie that is my favorite line ever, which is, "When is a gift not a gift?" Ooh! That was so good. I was like, yes. When is a gift not a gift? Incredible. Incredible. I loved everything that was done with the character of the Baron, and I loved Skarsgård's way of really selling that he is a man that is uncomfortable with his body, and there's still a bit of that grossness about him, but it's also played with the intelligence of a strategist. Loved it. Loved it. Zendaya is not in the film for very long, and I know the story, so I didn't expect her to be in the story. I know that a lot of people were very, very upset that she wasn't in the story very, very much more, but they should be satisfied that in the next movie, everything will be told through her point of view. So there you go. And by the way, I think that is a very smart idea by Denis Villeneuve to give her point of view in the story, to take the focus off of Paul a little bit, so that way Paul is not the protagonist. Herbert didn't want Paul to be the protagonist, even though he is in the beginning. He is in the beginning. Jason Momoa was excellent. Okay, I think a lot of people were worried. I wasn't, because I know Duncan from the stories, and I feel as if he matched it perfectly. What this story kind of gives you is an idea that Duncan is closer to Paul than pretty much anybody. They're almost like really good friends. But he's more of a mentor to Paul. And I really wanted to get a little bit more, because Duncan is very important to the story. He did a fantastic job. Loved it. And it was incredible. Incredible, incredible, incredible. There was Josh Brolin, excellent. I mean, did you expect any less? Javier Bardem, amazing. Same thing. What did you expect? I mean, they just delivered the excellence that we're used to seeing on screen by them. So, incredible. There was some controversy about Dr. Liet Kynes being now played by a woman of color. And to me, it didn't seem to matter at all. The actor's name was Sharon Duncan Brewster. I think it was done in the same fashion as it was done in 1984. And she did well. I mean, no complaints from me. And she didn't change the character. It's the same character, basically. Dave Bautista, really good as the Beast Raban. I hope in the second movie we get a little bit more of him. We get some more detail about his psyche. I loved anytime he was on screen, it was just like, yes, 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 this is the Beast, yes. And I wanted a little bit of more, like, what is his life really like? What is he like before a battle? So I would love to know, like, details that's not in the book about the Beast. And why is he called the Beast? Just a little bit more. I mean, it may require some more violence or whatever, but or even maybe not violence. Maybe we can find out more about how he was treated as a kid or something to give me more about that character. Everybody else was, were incredible. The acting was just so good. It was just so good. Everyone gave incredible performances. The look of the movie is so yummy and delicious. It looks like chocolate. It looks like chocolate. I mean, and I can't wait for the second movie. I can't believe it's going to be 2 years, but it'll fly by really quickly. And I hope that they're able to really tell such a great story, lead us right into Dune Messiah, which Denis Villeneuve has already said that he wants to do. And that is definitely where we're going to see. It is the completion of the Dune saga for this particular leg of it. And then I think Children of Dune is sort of the next leg where we kind of get into the next generation. And it's a beautiful tale. It really is. There's Emperor God of Dune, which is incredible. That story is so good. It's so good. There's Heretics of Dune, which I vaguely remember that story, to tell you the truth. I probably need a refresher. And Chapter House, which is another one that's like, I remember it being really good, but then I think it ends in a cliffhanger, and I don't remember. It's like foggy to me, you know, because for some reason we always keep going back to the original Dune book and Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, Emperor Dune, and then after that it gets really foggy for me. Then there's also more books done by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson, which are actually prequel novels. And I think these should be done too. And if, you know, I know that a lot of people were like, oh, they're not as good. I never got a chance to read them, but there's information in there that maybe could be utilized in a story, TV series or something like that. As long as they use this aesthetic, right? Please continue this aesthetic, and so we can really feel as if we're completely engrossed in this world, and we can start to love it, you know. And that's the key, is really getting this world down pat and like using the same aesthetic. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the future of Dune. I mean, I love Dune so much, and it is one of my favorite franchises of all time. If we could ever get it going and maybe get some toys, and we can get some action figures and some, you know, just have a world full of Dune stuff. It'll be great. It'll be great. So right now, my synopsis is, it is a masterpiece. It is missing some things, but I'm hopeful that a lot of those things will be introduced in Dune Part 2. And my rating right now for it is a 9.8, which is incredible. And that really sums up my very quick impromptu review of a new movie. And I hope you liked it. If you did, I've got over 100 movie reviews, so go on ahead and browse the channel to see more reviews from me. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, and hit the bell icon to be the very first to be notified of my next video. This is Retro Nerd Girl signing off. Take care, movie lovers. I'm off to my next review.